Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. This week's edition of the Duval Dive, wrapping up week 2 of preseason. We have joint practices going on during the week. Of course, hope you saw me and Travis wrapping that up from Duval County proper there in person over on the Duval Dive YouTube channel. Bing! So make sure you check that out. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. And listen, doing it again. I'm not going to bring the world along without my personal champion to help in guiding you Duval devout out there, talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. And of course, I'm talking about Big Cat Country's Travis D. Holmes. What's going on, my man?
Good evening. Happy Sunday to Duval County. How y'all doing today, man? I think this is Victory Sunday. Yeah. Let's go with that.
I mean, if you want to make that much of beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over at Everbank for a session, a preseason session. And listen, Duval Devout is appropriate here, I think, today to refer to the Jacksonville fanhood. It is Sunday. It is the holy day. Football is being played, albeit in preseason fashion. We're all better for it. And listen, for those who didn't catch Travis and I talking about the joint practices with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during the week on the YouTube channel, first of all, get a hold of your life. Second, we touched on the fact, and we knew this up front. Like I believe Doug Peterson mentioned this in minicamp, that the week of these joint practices, I should say, that there weren't going to be a lot of starters taking snaps. Obviously, there were some guys who were hurt and didn't get their time to knock the proverbial dust off. The Ezra Clevelands, other guys like that were dealing with getting nicked up. Anton Harrison's
a big
who was dealing with concussion stuff, all of that. They got their time. Obviously, BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. got a little time. Being young, probably needing a few more reps. I think Jarian Jones started a little time, whatever, but I don't know that he's started yet either.
He's not even started, yeah.
Yeah, so with all that in mind, if you were wondering why Trevor didn't get 20 minutes of game time, that's because it was the joint practices and that was going on. And listen, throughout the week, you've heard concerns surrounding the trenches. I'll put it this way. Throughout the joint practices, watching the preseason game proper as it was, there's certainly still a lot of conversation about the trenches. I'm sure Travis and I will get into that. But listen, let me get into the defense a little bit, because I dropped, as I do when these things happen on Jaguars on SI, my top performers. And I got to tell you, it was not, I put some defensive players in honorable mention, Travis, but I don't know that I had a top performer in this particular scenario. And the reason why it was hard for me, for those that are wondering, Kyle Trask and John Wolford are not it. I'm glad we're not, covering Tampa, because beyond Baker Mayfield, that is some challenging quarterback play. That's what I'll say.
That's fair. And then that's what made it very difficult for me, even in evaluating when I did my write-up on Big Cat Country about the matchup. Offense was easy. Special teams was easy. Actually, offense was more challenging just because there was multiple players to choose from. But defense was harder because I ended up going with Chad Muma. And after the fact, I'm like, well, PFF says Trey Flowers. You could even argue, Muma, because he had the big hit. But overall, even having 5 targets on the receivers you're covering doesn't mean much when your targets are, oh boy, they're hot garbage. And I'm just gonna call it a spade. Like, and that's the unfortunate part about it, is Trey had a good game, but also these weren't the best targets for his receivers.
Right. And no disrespect to Trey, like, we're not saying he's not a good player, but really, when we talk about the quarterback struggling that we mentioned earlier, of course PFF has a DB as the top performer. My question is, how much was the actual coverage the reason for the disconnections? And keep in mind, another thing I held against this defense, Travis, and correct me if you don't agree with this approach, that's fine. You had no turnovers against this group. Not exactly something I was stoked about, I got to tell you.
Well, no turnovers I'm okay with, because there weren't many turnovers initially. Well, at least on the Jaguar side, let me say it that way. On the day one of joint practices, there were no turnovers from any of the quarterbacks. So I'm thinking, all right, cool. So they're getting acclimated to each other, and then all the turnovers took place on day two of joint practices when they started doing a little bit more red zone and things of that nature. So again, these teams had basically 3 days of getting acclimated to each other, figuring out what they do best, what to be nervous about, maybe why I should be a little bit cautious in my coverage of BTJ because he's going to run by me. I now understand what I'm dealing with, these kinds of things. So I get it in that way. Maybe the defense didn't get the turnovers because these quarterbacks weren't making these risky throws. However, at the end of the day, to your point, these weren't the most accurate throws. So maybe we should have gotten one of those, one of those flicked throws into an interception like Hamlet got on Thursday in training camp. He ended up getting 2 picks off of Kyle Trask. But at the end of the day, you can't talk about the throws that didn't happen, the picks that didn't happen. The defense did play well. Again, they had an 18% third down conversion rate. 3 sacks. Lord, it was a day. It was a
Three
pretty
sacks
day.
with 2 in the fourth quarter. Let's keep that in perspective.
Hey man, you can only play who you play. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like that is
Listen,
what it is. You can only gauge the tape based on what it is.
if you give me that talk during the regular season, I'll let it slide. But when you're down, like, when you got the true future gas station service workers here down on the depth chart, that matters. I'm throwing that out there. But
Dang,
I mean, I would have said insurance salesman, but like, I'm not saying that to say that these players are bad. Let's keep in mind,
I got you.
final cut down day is coming on August 27th, and some people just ain't going to have a job on these rosters. That's just the facts of the case.
I mean, it's fair. No, at the end of the day, it is fair. But again, the Jaguars, they didn't give up any points after 2 minutes left in the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
They again, we already talked about the 3 sacks, 5 3 and outs, and again, 2 of those were in the first half. Like they didn't let the Buccaneers offense breathe. And again, the offense wasn't the greatest, but I can't judge that. What did the defense do their job? Yes, in all areas but stopping the run. And we should talk about that because that was suspect, we'll say. That was one of my biggest lingering questions is will this defense still be able to stop the run? And I'm not talking about the unit. Now we're talking about the players who are going to be able to contribute. Your War Robertson Harris, your Mason Smiths, your Jordan Jefferson, and start digging into those individual player performances and finding out the guys who are going to contribute to stopping the run. Are they able to do that? Did they show that on film in this game? And actually, for 2 of those guys, I'd say they had pretty solid outings. Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson, I think, did have really solid outings overall, with 1 or 2 plays here and there.
Right. And you mentioned Jefferson seeing his first action because he was battling a light injury throughout the first week or so here of camp. And both of them you're hoping to see things from as rookies so they can go in and help contribute and load manage Eric Armstead, who obviously did not play in this game just this week, released from or actually I should say, technically it's last week, I suppose, but you get it.
Yeah, I got you. Yes, he was released from the PUP, but he's still going through his acclimation period, so he'll be practicing next week or this coming week.
And listen, I can speak personally to how excited he's got to be to get back. I mean, obviously anybody who's been hurt wants to get back on the field, but I asked Eric Armstead that Wednesday after he had been taken off of the PUP about what his favorite advice was that he's given to people there in the Jaguars staff since coming from the Niners, right? The Jags would be the only other team he's played for after, 9 years? He's going into year 10, I think it is. Yeah. But what he said was the advice he liked to bestow was that it's a short window and you're only going to have this group of guys here. So you got to be motivated to do everything you can. I'm paraphrasing there. If you want the exact quote, you could check it out on the Jaguars on SI, bing, where I write about what he said in comparisons to Calais Campbell that came from Josh Allen during the conversation. All interesting stuff there. But you mentioned Jordan Jefferson. Let's let this young man shine with what he did, albeit against alleged league backups and stuff, whatever. Let's show, not tell. We're going to light up the tape here in a minute. Tell me what you see that you enjoyed from Jordan Jefferson.
He held his own against double teams in the second quarter and then in the third quarter. I mean, he did it pretty religiously. Here he splits a double team, gets off the second guy, makes the tackle, and I'm like, yo, this is an amazing rep for him. Like, and he had a few reps like this or very similar to this, but maybe didn't break the tackle, but he shedded the guy, got him off of him, still keeping the linebackers clean. Like, this is a great rep for him. And also Mason Smith on the left of him. He does a great job controlling the line of scrimmage, has the tackle the guard going back. He just needs to disengage right there. Just get him off of you on that right arm and maybe get involved in the play. But overall, the interior D line for both of those two gentlemen did very well on that play. So
Yeah.
I mean, I have nothing bad to say about that. I some folks privately complained to me that they had some issues on his pursuit angles, mainly on that longer run, that the cutback for the Tampa Bay running back. And I actually rewatched that a few times. It wasn't even the cutback was not on him; it was on the other defensive tackle, who got washed down by a double team. He actually just was trying to pursue. It is what it is. He's a bigger guy. Like, come on, man. So I have nothing bad to say about his performance. I think he's going to be a great addition to this team and great helping us to try to stop the run.
Yeah, I mean, a rookie taking a bad angle is the kind of thing you're going to see earlier in their play. I'm not
Right.
necessarily panicked about that. But to your point, my favorite thing is you could tell the guard that was part of the initial double team on Jordan Jefferson there in that clip
Mhm.
thought the job was done, and you
Yeah.
see him look back, realizing like, oh, and here he comes.
He grabbed him by the neck right here, yanked him down, and it was a wrap. Luke Fortner knows all about that. That actually happened on Luke last week against Kansas City in the double team. I'm sorry, it happened. I literally the same play, but
My
it
favorite
was a
thing
great
about
play on
you
Jefferson.
My favorite thing about you on Luke Fortner, Travis C. Holmes, is you have no problem like just lighting him up in that comment. But by the same token, hey, top backup center in the league according to BFF. Who's my buyer?
Brother,
Woo!
I'm never going to be too high or too low. I don't care what the fans do. They're the roller coaster. I'm just going to tell you what the film is showing. Even when everyone was going crazy about Luke last week, I'm the one person that came out and said I don't think he played badly. He had one or two bad plays. I think he played well overall. This week, you don't hear me saying that.
Oh, he
But
was
that
camp.
correct.
I'm getting that. Yeah,
But at
no.
the end of the day, I'm only going to tell you what the film says. I'm not worried about emotions.
See, but I'm pointing out this duality because it's fun to observe, and I'm making sure people are following Travis C. Holmes on Twitter and all the socials. Bing! That's what friends do, champion. Anyway, anyway, what were other elements about the defense that you enjoy? Because, like I said, to me, I was kind of like, meh. Tell me what it is I should be more hyped about. Help me there.
Well, for me, again, just to your point, I'm a DB guy, so I want to lean in on the DBs. And when I couldn't, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Again, to your original point, the quarterback play wasn't the greatest, so it is what it is. It was hard to then give attention or give extra attention to the DBs. So then what else can I best do? Well, what can we always argue about? What can we always talk about? O-line play and D-line play. So I went and watched the game 3 times, and in that time, I really slowed it down and rewound plays multiple times to take a look at the specific O lineman who can impact our 2024 season. So we're talking Blake Hance, we're talking Ezra Cleveland, we're talking Anton Harrison snaps, Walker Little. These guys who, if someone gets injured, hey, how did they do? And across the board, you got some guys that did well. You got some guys that did bad. Like, and I'm not going to go one by one, but you can go to Travis D. Holmes on Twitter, take a look at it. I literally have a thread on the post talking about each individual guy's performance. But overall, Walker Little, damn good game. Both run game and pass game. Cooper Hodges honestly had an up and down game. And a lot of people were talking about a lot of his worst plays. And unfortunately, it stinks for him that his worst two plays in the game both came in the 2-minute drill right before halftime. If he
Mhm.
doesn't have those two rough plays, he probably has an average to an above average game, and that stinks.
Well, and I'll add that to this too. You mentioned that 2 minute drill involving Mac Jones, and we could talk more about Mac Jones and people
Yes,
thinking
Lord.
when or he shouldn't have been a starter or not, or whenever that's happening. But with all that being said, if Elijah Cooks makes that catch in the first edition of the 2 minute drill, we're not
Yes.
having this conversation. Elijah Cooks having easily probably the roughest week I've seen, and letting other guys kind of creep into that 6 wide receiver spot potentially ahead of him. I don't know that it's going to happen, but the door is
Yeah.
further open than it's been in this, and I would say even last year's camp, right?
Mm,
So,
yeah.
the 2 minute drill, though, such that it was executed by Mac Jones, we have to talk about that a little bit because he had the
That's fair.
opportunity to put the team within field goal range. I mentioned that earlier. Elijah Cooks drops the pass. Then he gets
Yeah.
the ball back thanks to the defense doing their job, as you put it. 35 seconds, goes 49 yards with a shot for a touchdown that, they frankly don't get, but he wisely lives to fight another day, throws
Yeah.
the ball out of bounds. Cam Little does the job. Similarly, in week one, CJ, I threw everything short. Bethard had the opportunity to move the ball after an excellent return by Tank Bigsby and utterly fails. But other people want to tell me not so fast, my friend, about whether or not Mac Jones is starting. Right? Travis D. Holmes on Twitter. I told you.
Yes, Travis D. Holmes on Twitter at the halftime mark says, I would just like to see what CJ does before saying that the quarterback competition is over. And before that, and after the 2-minute drive was over, I literally had to say, I'm sorry, y'all, I was wrong. But you know what? That's who you want to talk to. You want to listen to the guys who are not going to just dig in and just tell you that this is what I believe and this is what my opinion changed within 2 minutes simply because I saw a throw that I'm like, oh, okay, no, this is a wrap. He made that throw, it's over, y'all. CJ's not making that throw, and I'm okay saying that. So sometimes it's like that.
And listen, you are but a case study of people who thought that CJ Beathard was going to win the number 2 spot, going from not so fast, my friend, to what happened was.
Oh no. See, I always originally thought Matt was going to win the QB2 spot. I just was willing to hold out until making that determination, saying that it was over. That was my biggest thing. I thought it was an open competition versus just saying, all right, it's closed now.
Well, right. And I listen, we both knew it was an open competition, but I remember in the first week of camp feeling very confident that one Mac Jones was going to handle it. If we were in the back of the end zone,
Right.
he's talking about it, and this is going to happen. I put my chips, I called the shot, and listen, this game, I think, certainly, listen, there are things that could happen, and granted, CJ Beathard actually did up suffering a groin injury late in the game. So depending on that recovery, the door may have been shut even beyond his hands. So
let me be clear. As soon as CJ had to leave the field and Mac had to come in with the exact same group and then lead them to a scoring drive with the same dudes against the same dudes, that was a wrap. That effectively shut the door. I really don't care what CJ does in week 3 at that point. Mac can't have the game that he had with the same crew that CJ was playing with and truly struggling with, and say it's still an open competition. You can't tell a locker room that, man. That won't fly.
No, not even a little bit. And listen, I think, listen, for everybody out there who's still on that ridiculous argument or will inevitably hear, that one guy on First Take, that's Kevin Wiles, say something about Mac Jones beating out Trevor Lawrence or whatever. Like, this was going to happen. This was the reason why the Jags went to get him, and it's twofold, right? Obviously, they wanted an upgrade at the starting quarterback position. When Trevor missed time, they didn't necessarily enjoy what CJ Beathard was doing, in my opinion. That's my guess.
Right.
The other piece is, and I'm getting my Trent Baalke defense, which again, mark it when you see it because it's rare. The thing about Mac Jones, if you could revive the look of an overall, not a first round overall, but like a first round draft pick that's a former starter, and get him looking sharp again, somebody's going to be dumb enough to take a shot at him. I shouldn't say dumb enough, but will be intrigued to.
Desperate enough.
Desperate enough is a better question. Yeah. Curious enough, in enough need in this and in basically any environment, because the NFL, quarterbacks are obviously super important. But somebody that needs a patchwork to get through here, who thinks that they're a quarterback away maybe, and they have everything else. Like, I could see a world where, check this out. Here's a conspiracy theory for you, right? What if Brock Purdy, I was about to say Brock Osweiler. What am I doing? Brock Purdy wants $60 million a year, to which the Niners would obviously say no, right? No. They may be inclined to throw some picks at the Jets.
Like pulling I mean, I guess kind of what the Dallas Cowboys did. You bring in another quarterback, whatever. Pulling the same thing the Steelers did. There's a lot of guys out there who want an adequate backup quarterback, and if you Doug Peterson can show that Mac Jones is now truly an adequate quarterback by giving him those auditions and putting the tape out there. You then raise his trade value, and you may be able to get something for him. Absolutely.
And hey, if you're a franchise like the 49ers that can maximize the value of a quarterback at a particular level and get a guy who you don't need to pay $60 million in the room,
They love that.
I mean, love it. Listen,
Yeah.
people can criticize the Trey Lance pick and trade all they want. At the end of the day, what they did to get to the Super Bowl and a conference championship the year previous is just unparalleled.
All right. We love your love affair with the 49ers, but this is Duval, dog. Let's talk about Duval, baby.
And that's how taking it full circle, Trent Baalke would finagle picks away from John Lynch and the Jags. That's what I'm saying.
I got you, bro. I'm just giving you a hard time. I know you love your team,
and
I love mine.
You had to get me back for talking crap on the Mac Jones.
yes. But in wrapping up the O-line, like Ezra Cleveland, he had a good first quarter. He had a clean game overall. Like, I mean, he, for the most part, if he didn't stumble in 2 of his pass sets where he actually had the guy engaged, he probably would have had a clean sheet in both the run and the pass game. And Anton Harrison is the freaking he's a juggernaut from X-Men. He's running through walls. He's knocking dudes over. He's getting bonus points on this level simply because he can. He's a starting right tackle that's playing against backups, and it looks like he's playing against children. The man's out there doing his thing.
Maybe it was an opportunity for a food take. You know what? Let's show don't tell. Anton Harrison crushing dudes. Travis, tell the people what you liked when you see it.
All right, so Anton's your right tackle here. He takes on this linebacker, throws him out the way. Oh, as a cornerback too, Ooh. Bonus points. Like why not?
It's so pretty, Travis.
It is so nice. And but look at BTJ, number 7, getting his face in there. Like he is in. Tank bounces off of him and gets the first down. So tip of the cap to Mr. Tank Bigsby for fighting through it, even with bouncing off everything else. Again, the man had literally every single one of his yards in the game after contact. So that's saying that the blocking wasn't always necessarily great, because again, you still have some backup guys in there who may have been struggling with their blocks, whether that be Tyler Shatley, whether that be Blake Hance. There was just a few guys who religiously would, if it's not all of them at the same time, there's one of the guys who would just blow a block and it will make it very difficult on Tank, and he still found ways to get yardage out of that. So if you see Tank Bigsby's final box line and say that's not that impressive, why is everybody going crazy? Stop box watching first off, and watch the tape. That's what getting national guys in trouble. And watch the tape, and you will see a guy who was out there putting the team on his shoulders and balling out of control. But again, you take the good that you can. The guys who are going to contribute in 2024 for the Jaguars, sans any injuries, are the guys who seem to play really, really dang well. That's my takeaway.
Hey, listen, the one thing you're leaving off the box sheet with Tank that we can't gloss over: 0 turnovers. 0 turnovers for the squad. Like, and I get, well, they should be doing that. Well, they did it. Okay, there you go. Not something we always see from this crew from Duval. And hey, let me be clear. If anybody should be dropping a not so fast, my friend, it should be Tank Bigsby on me for all the criticism I've given him this offseason. I am more than happy to be humbled and humiliated for how wrong I seem to have become for a guy that's developing very nicely. He is the first offensive player. Well, no, not fair. Parker Washington is the first one. He got a touchdown in the game, which was probably the most predictable occurrence of the game. But
all the quarterbacks love PW, baby.
Yeah, it's a fact. And then Tank Bigsby, again, being an impact in the past 2 games, in the first one in more than one phase, him returning kicks, him holding on to the ball while doing so, does have me a little bit excited.
Just call it what it is. This whole preseason is just the Trent Baalke revenge games. Like, this is what this is. This is just that's it. This is Trent draft and develop Baalke, showing off on y'all, telling y'all to learn ball. He told you at the end of the season we need to be a draft and develop team, and they turn around in this draft class that we were just complaining about all of a sudden just look like these guys just look different. Hey man, I've been the one clowning you all. I didn't respect your game. I'm not willing to say I'm sorry just yet, but I'm getting there.
Well, let's just put it this way: the lack of guard play is the scariest thing amongst the starters. And before we start throwing parties for Trent in Baalke, see what I did there. Let's tell him. Let's acknowledge what he did get right. But I would remind the panel of you and me, obviously, that you can make a good pick that isn't the right pick. And perhaps all along, my friend Jamal St. Cyr was correct that Fuaga should have been higher up on his board than he was.
That's
Just throwing
fair.
that out there.
That's also fair. Like again, both things can be true. It can be he did well in these other areas, and also he should have still allocated those resources to this area that's not necessarily doing as well, or that we still have questions on.
Well, and we got a little bit more time here. I want to throw some shine on a guy that we haven't talked about a lot. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, sure, Parker Washington got the touchdown to open up scoring for the contest. He just got behind everybody. It wasn't necessarily impressive. But to see Brevin Easton in the room get his touchdown,
it was impressive to me. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sorry. Parker Washington's route was impressive to me, not because of anything Parker did, but because of Mac Jones looking off the safety. That was good for me. And he put the ball over the linebacker. That's Tampa 2 defense.
Mhm.
You could underthrow that, allow the linebacker to make a play. So that was dope. But to your original point, Brevin Easton, yes. That man give that man his shine, and that was a great route, great catch.
But yeah, let's show don't tell. Travis, tell the people.
Last year, I mean, like that was a monster, and so to see the guys in my class get paid is always encouraging.
Hey, we got a touchdown here. You want to call that?
There you go. Shout out to Brevin, man. Good job.
Yes, Lord. Slot fade, the Christian Kirk special. Yes. Well, actually, technically, that's the Calvin Ridley special from the Buffalo game last year.
Well.
I'm sorry, but it's really, we know
point
that route.
We
knew when they draw that route up who they drew it up for. They drew it up for Christian Kirk and nobody else. Slot fade, put it in there, way to catch the ball. Yeah, it was a great route and it was a great throw. And again, that was what put the dagger in the quarterback competition for me personally, because again, Mac did that with the backup unit that had gotten 3 sacks in less than a quarter against CJ Beathard. So hey, good job, Mac. Good job, Brevin.
Clearly wasn't an underthrown ball either. I went there, Travis. I went there. Oh, man, listen.
Dang.
We've had enough fun. We've had enough silly. It's time to get ready for week 3. Travis Holmes, tell the world.
Well, you can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes. Getting ready for week 3 when we start watching film. Take a look. I'll be having threads talking about everything that I'm looking at. Maybe if we can find some time throughout this week, maybe even do some lives. So we'll figure that out. But yes, bigcatcountry.com. That's where we'll have all of our write-ups covering the press conferences, covering the practices. The practices are now closed to the public moving forward for the rest of camp, because it's just this week coming up. But the media is still allowed for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday before the team takes on Atlanta in week 3. And for the most part, yeah, just follow me on the socials, Travis D. Holmes and bigcatcountry.com. Save and measure favorites. Come on, man. Where can you be found, sir?
Yes, as the Jags head to Fulton County to do battle with the Falcons there in Atlanta. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Threads, and Instagram at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings with the Black and Gold Banneret, Jaguars on SI, and a little action during the basketball season on the 3-point conversion. So check that out as well. Also on the Student of the Game podcast, this beautiful face right here, this guy, my personal champion, will be previewing the Jacksonville Jaguars, as well as CeeLou of Sports After Dark, Mike Patton of Touring the AFC South, and of course, my dude from Eastern Radio there in Houston, Patrick Creighton. It's going to be an excellent lineup. Make sure you check that out starting 9 p.m. Eastern Wednesday on that. And of course, we'll still be back on Sunday at 8 one last time to bring you the final preseason game. And of course, the Night Shift podcast will drop on Tuesday. So if you're looking for all things UCF here that are going on in the fall, check that out as well. So for my good friend, Travis D. Holmes, I am Kyle Nash, student game. And until next time, everyone, class dismissed.